What's your name?
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda and I'd like to know how to structure the deal and how to present it to a prospective investor.
Perfect. So the question is, great question by the way, how do I structure the deal and how do I present it to an investor? Great. So again, there's many different ways to structure a deal. Many of you have heard me talk about this before, but it's really good for reinforcement. You know, I could talk about this subject for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, and it still wouldn't be enough, So typically speaking, and the Dobsons, this is really how they've built their entire property portfolio. For me now, the best way, in my view, to raise money from private funders is simply on a fixed rate return. Fixed rate, percentage return, write that down. Can anyone tell me what I call that product in Assets for Life? Yeah, I call it the Savings Accelerator. By all means, you could also call it the Savings Accelerator. Okay, so I call it the Savings Accelerator. And when you go into a JV or to an investor, you've got to imagine a blank piece of paper. What are we going to imagine? A blank piece of paper, right? And people are losing money in the bank right now. They're losing a lot of money. Inflation is at its highest rate, they say, in something like 40 years. The pound today is worth so much less than it was 10 years ago. Some people are saying half. So a pound today is worth half of what it was 10 years ago. Cost of living, as we know, is going up, but people do have cash. People have got stocks, shares, ISAs, pension products. So let's have a think now, because these are things that you need to explore when you are sitting with a private investor. So people have got money in the bank. They've got money in their business. So write these down. They've got money in their savings accounts. People have got money on credit cards. They may be able to pull money out of their pensions, depending on the type of pension. People have got money in things like premium bonds, stocks and shares, ISAs, crypto. So there's many places where people store their cash. They store their cash. And one thing that I like to do when I'm meeting private investors is I do something which is called, and write this down, a financial fact find. Financial fact find. Now, they don't quite know I'm doing a financial fact find on them. It's all about how you word it. But one of my roles as the property investor, we also need to make sure that, you know, you're not having someone put every single penny into your loan agreement. You also want to have an idea of what they've got out there, right? And typically I'll do a financial fact find once I've done the icebreaker. We've had a really nice if I go straight in and go, hey Cindy, nice to meet you today. Can you just tell me how much money you got in the bank? Yeah, got any stock shares, ISAs? And they like freak her out. She'd be like, what's this guy all about? He just wants my cash. So there's a certain time and a place, and I typically go on a feel. Yeah? But let's say, for example, you know, Oliver's one of my potential investors. We're meeting for the first time. You know, I'll introduce myself. I'll go on a fact find with Oliver, find out why he's investing, get to know Oliver. Can anyone remember from previous masterminds we've done similar to this, where what is one of the key things that I'm looking to do when I first meet someone who's a potential investor? What do we want to do through that conversation? Well done, yes. We want to build rapport and we want to build a connection.
Yeah, so you both.
Yeah, so actually that is so much more important than the fact find or even positioning the Savings Accelerator product. Because if you don't do the groundwork correctly in the start and you haven't then done this, remember, if you then haven't done this team, know, like, and trust, connection, build the relationship, then it's going to make your job a lot more difficult, okay? Now, there are some caveats. Occasionally I get a private investor, they don't want to tell me about their lives. They're not into it, they just want to get straight to the money. And that's, but that's probably 1 in 10 or 1 in 15 people are like that, right? Most people want to build the relationship. They are potentially going to be lending you money or doing a JV. They're going to want to know about you. So through my conversations, we just get to know people. But it's like a conversation, it's not an interview. Yeah, so I know what I'm doing. I'm doing this fact find. And then if they share something about their life, I'll say, well, how can I mirror that? And then I might share something about how I loved traveling in Marbella, or talk about my children, or talk about how I met Holly. So I'm also sharing personal information about me to match where they are. Might talk about sports, might talk about travel, might talk about vision, might talk about food. It's just like having a conversation. And then what I'll do at some point when I get that feeling, I will say perhaps something like this. Look, what's really important here, Oliver, what's important is that I don't work with a lot of private funders. And I hope you can appreciate it's important that we work with the right people. We want you to work with us, we want to work with you, and vice versa. And I just need to make sure that we are able to put you into the best type of product that's going to meet your needs. So look, just out of interest, Oliver, where are you at the moment? How much do you make? What do you earn? And people then normally say, yeah, I'm on 30 or 40 or 50, 60K a year, whatever it is. Okay, great. And hey, would you like to be earning more money and doing less? Yeah, okay, well that's how investing is going to help you get your money working for you. And just out of interest, Oliver, have you got any like stocks, shares, ISAs? Just throw it in there. Yeah, I've got some stocks and shares. And hey, and how long have you been investing in stocks and shares and crypto? And what are you holding? How are you getting on? And do you have a lot of time? And have you had any major wins or any major losses? And what would you say the portfolio's worth roughly now? Yeah, I've got about £45,000 in the portfolio. Oh, okay, great. I'm doing this financial fact find, but it's very relaxed. And you'll be surprised, people will tell you. They won't always tell you the truth, but they will tell you. They will give some information away if they believe it's done because you're going to help them, yeah? So that's one way in which you could do it, Amanda, is just have those conversations. But remember, you're leading that conversation. Yeah, you ultimately want to take someone to saying, I like what you do, love your company, love the vision, I feel comfortable with you, and hey, yeah, I like the idea of, investing some money into you, yeah? The other thing that you can do, and I've done this on a number of occasions, and I know Neil and Jackie have also done this, I know at least one time, but I'm sure they've done it multiple times, is that you could go to your potential investors, your accountant, your solicitor, your friends, your family members, and because they're really smart people, And you're going to say, hey, you know what, John, obviously look, you're a really smart guy, you know, really take your advice, really, you know, value what you tell me as my solicitor or my accountant. You couldn't do something for me, could you? I've got this amazing property deal and we're looking to raise some money from some private investors. And you just give them a 1-page or 2-page document on the deal. Now, would we agree that if you're going to raise money for a deal, it's going to be a great deal? Yes or no, team? It's going to be a great deal. And then you put it in front of them, and then you let them give you the feedback. Now, if they've got some access to some cash, and they're losing money in their bank, their business, their savings, their pensions, their bonds, their stock shares, ISAs, crypto, if these particular products are underperforming, they're underperforming and they're not making them the money they want to make, and your thing that you're presenting is going to beat the banks, give them a great return, your team becomes their team, perhaps an earn and learn setup, would we say there's a good chance that they might say, how can I do this? I'd like to get involved. And you sell to someone without actually selling to them. They sell through themselves. They sell through themselves. So how do you do that? Well, you've got to get a 1 or 2 pager done. Very simple. And then you just need to test it. Put it out to all your friends, your family members. We've got the holiday season coming up. Many of you are going to be at Christmas parties. You're going to be out on the lash. You're going to be out with friends, family members over Christmas. Why don't you get this document prepared? Why don't you just, why don't you set yourself a target now? Set yourself a target now that between now and the end of 2022, you put this document in front of 20 people. In front of 20 people, yeah? And I'm almost certain that if you put that in front of 20 people, I can pretty much guarantee you're gonna get at least one investor, if not more. Investing, raising money is about touch points. And something which every single one of you should be doing, you should focus on 70%. What percent, team? 70% of your time in any business, but certainly in property, needs to be focused on rebuilding relationships. Okay, relationships, yeah? Building relationships. And the more relationships that you build, the more money you will raise, the more deals you will find, the quicker you will grow your business. This is one of the key fundamental parts of building any business, relationships. Today we're talking about investors, someone later might be talking about agents, someone might be talking about landlords, people in your power team. Build those relationships. It's like going fishing. You want to have as many fishing rods, lines out in the water as possible. And then you've got more chance of catching the fish you want to catch. It's how you create relationships. It's how you start to raise money. So does that make sense? Yeah? So, but typically, I always aim to do fixed rate return out to private investors. So how could that look? Let me go into a bit more detail and I'll come to you, Andrew, yeah? How could that look? So let's just say Dan needs £5,000 for his next rent-to-rent serviced accommodation deal. Okay, let's say he needs 5K. And let's just assume for a minute he's either got the money but doesn't want to use his own money, or he hasn't got the money. Either way, he's decided he's going to bring in a private investor in. Very simple. You use what's called a loan agreement. Write that down, team. And they're all in the Dropbox. You've got access to my loan agreements. Don't need to go to a solicitor. You can if you want, £2,000, or just use my one. Who'd rather use my one? Raise your hand if you would. Great, cool. Loan agreement, £5,000. and you want to borrow that money typically, 5 to 10%, yeah? So the way that it would work in this setup, this is the investor, this is the deal. The investor will lend the 5K. Let's just say it's for 1 year, and let's just say it is 10%, simple on the maths. And then at the end of the year, at the end of the term, what have you got to do? Send the money back. How much will you send them back? 5,500, yeah? Okay, you'll earn a little bit less profit on the rent-to-rent deal, but it's infinite return. You've used none of your own money. Okay? The next option here, if you're doing loan agreements, so again, we're sticking on the loan here, but let's say you are going to do buy, refurbish, refinance. So you want to own the property using none of your own money. Let's just say in this case, you need 100K to go and buy something. You might need 200, might need 80, might need 300. I don't know, right? But let's just say it's 100K that you need. When you are lending money from an investor, the banks do not like that. So typically, unless you found a bridging company different, Neil and Jackie, but they do not like money being lent to you, because when you buy, refurbish, refinance, are you going to find a dirty, horrible, smelly, disgusting house? Yes or no, team? Yeah, it's probably not mortgageable at the start. So you can't get a mortgage. So what's the next option if you can't get a mortgage and you want the banks to get involved? Yeah, it's bridging, isn't it? Yeah, so it's bridge. And typically the bridge, what percentage will they give you? Loan to cost. 75%, there or thereabouts. Might be less, might be a bit more. Let's just use 75%. So from the 100K, how much is the bridge going to give you? 75K, but you've got a shortfall of how much? 25K, yeah? You cannot lend that money from me today and then go to the bridging company and say, yeah, the deposit is from Liam at Assets for Life. He's an investor and he's just lent me 25K. It's not going to get passed through. Okay? So one way of doing it, which is how me and Jay have done some of our deals. We did this with 231 Burgolt Road in Colchester during the pandemic. We needed more than 100K, but let's just say we needed 100K. This is the investor. This is the deal. Okay. We needed 100K to buy the property, refurb the property with the legals. And actually what we did, we couldn't get all the money from one investor. So then what do? You get another investor, all right? So what they did is they lent us the money on a fixed rate return. We then bought the property for cash. No problem at all, the whole thing, including the refurb. And then we followed by on loaned money, but the whole thing, no bridging, no mortgage, no borrowing from the banks. We bought the property, we refinanced the property, we added a serious amount of value to the property, and then we went and refinanced the property, and then we got a mortgage. Once we refinanced, in this example, we were able to pull out 100% of the money that was initially put in. Now, we were only able to do that because the uplift was so good. It was a no money left in deal. So once we refinanced, what did we do, team? We paid them back. We gave them their fixed rate return. And now Jay and I own this deal in our special purpose vehicle. We used none of our own money to buy it. The investors were happy. We've now got a mortgage. We've now got tenants in. The tenants pay the mortgage, and we net about £400 to £500 a month net profit. Well, I'm really hoping that's giving you some confidence that you can do this. And look, if you want more information, go and check out www.assetsforlife.co.uk and access some free property training now. And I'll see you in my next video.